First story. My stepdaughter made it to the school sports team and ate up my husband's whole day. So I demand her to quit her sports because I and my kids also deserve some time and love from my husband. Now I'm regretting it. I don't even think this should be controversial. But my husband and his ex are acting like I'm the wicked stepmother from hell. And I honestly feel like I'm being very reasonable here. To start, I 29F have been married to my husband 34M for a little under a year. We've been together for about 2.5 years total. We both have kids from previous relationships. I have 2 daughters 7 and 6, and he has 3 kids 12F, 9F, and 6M. We each share 50-50 custody with our exes, and it's chaos every other week when we have all 5 kids under our roof. But we went into this eyes open. We wanted a big, blended family, and for the most part we've made it work. 3 months into our marriage, I got pregnant. I'm due in just 2 weeks and already feeling exhausted from the 3rd trimester. And this is where the issue starts. His oldest daughter 12F, I'll call her Paige, wants to play school sports. Specifically volleyball and basketball. These are school-based, team sports that practice every weekday and have games multiple nights a week. Her school is in her mom's district, which is about 30 minutes from our house. And yes, my husband agreed to this custody arrangement before we met. That means that on the weeks we have the kids, my husband already does about 2.5 hours of driving per day, just for school drop-offs and pickups because the kids are in 2 different schools. Add in Paige's sports schedule, and that number jumps to 4.5 hours minimum per day. Most practices run until 5, and games often go until 7 or 8, and they're all back near her school, not here. So now, we're talking about him being gone basically all day just to support one child's hobby. Now, before anyone jumps down my throat, I don't hate Paige, but she and I have never really clicked. She's polite, but she's very attached to her mom, and she doesn't really see me as a parental figure, which, fine, I'm not trying to replace her mom. But I feel like I've made every effort to include her in this house. She's just indifferent to me. To be honest, there's always been a little tension when it comes to her. For example, last Christmas, she threw a fit because she didn't like that we were opening presents with my girls before they left to spend the day with their dad. We weren't excluding her, it was a scheduling thing, but she moped the entire day and said we prioritized my kids. That hurt. She also made a snide comment once about how this isn't really her home, even though we redid a room specifically for her, and she has just as much space and freedom as the other kids. Anyway, the main point. I don't think it's fair or sustainable for my husband to be gone for 4 or 5 hours every day, every other week, just so one child can play 2 different sports back-to-back for 6 months, while I stay home taking care of a newborn and my 2 kids, doing all the chores, dinner, everything. I'm going to be recovering from childbirth, breastfeeding, and barely sleeping. Where is the balance? I brought this up to my husband and suggested a compromise. Maybe Paige could skip school sports this year and instead do the local youth league offered at our town's gym. It's much closer, less of a time commitment, only 2-3 days a week, and still gives her a chance to play. It would also mean that her siblings, my daughters and her younger brother, could potentially do sports too if they want, since everything would be local and manageable. But my husband immediately shot it down and said I was being unfair and punishing Paige for wanting to play school sports. He said she's been looking forward to it for over a year, and that he already told his ex they'd make it work. He accused me of trying to control his parenting and picking favorites. His ex got wind of it too, of course, and now she's involved. She texted my husband a whole wall of messages about how Paige shouldn't be limited just because your new wife can't handle parenting, and maybe you shouldn't have had another baby if you couldn't prioritize the kids you already have. I didn't respond to her directly because I refused to engage in drama with an ex, but I was pissed. She clearly thinks I'm some evil stepmother who wants her kid locked in a closet. That's not what this is. I just don't see how it's okay to build our entire family schedule around one child's extracurriculars. She has 4 siblings. A new baby is about to come, and I already know how this is going to go. My husband will spend every afternoon and evening in the car, while I'm stuck at home alone with 5 kids under 13, including a newborn. I tried bringing it up again this week, and he just got defensive. He said I was trying to make Paige's life smaller to make mine easier, which I don't think is fair at all. I'm just trying to make sure the whole family is taken care of. Is it really so selfish to ask for 1 year where she does a slightly less demanding league, just until the baby is older and things are calmer? Besides, let's be honest, this isn't the WNBA. It's 7th grade sports. If she wants to play in high school or seriously compete later, great. But she's not being robbed of some huge opportunity because she plays at the YMCA for a season. Also, it's not just the time. Last year, when she did volleyball for a short stint, they let her do a few weeks before my pregnancy got too far along. My husband and I would sit in the car for over an hour and a half with 2 toddlers and a bored 6-year-old waiting for practice to finish. You're not allowed in the gym during practices, only games, and there are no cafes or places to wait nearby. It was miserable. We tried letting her skip practices on the weeks she was with us. But her coach said she needed to commit or drop out. So we pulled her. Now my husband wants to go all in this year when I'm about to give birth. I told him I wouldn't be able to manage the house and kids solo that much. And he just shrugged and said, "Then we'll figure it out." But he hasn't offered any solutions. It feels like I'm supposed to carry the burden so Paige gets what she wants. And again, none of the other kids are doing anything right now. My girls have asked about dance or gymnastics, but we keep saying no because it's too much to juggle. So why does she get to be the only one with a full-blown schedule? This turned into a huge fight last night. He said I was being cold and acting like Paige doesn't matter. I told him that I'm just being realistic, and that he's not thinking about how much pressure this puts on me. I'm literally about to pop, and he's more worried about volleyball. And maybe I am frustrated that everything always seems to revolve around Paige. Like when she wanted to stay home from a family trip last summer just to go to a birthday party for a kid I've never heard of, and he actually canceled the whole trip rather than make her go. My girls were heartbroken, but he said he wasn't going to drag a preteen on a trip she didn't want to go on. Anyway, now he's barely talking to me and acting like I'm the arsehole. But I'm the one who's about to push out a baby, manage the entire house, and raise 5 kids half the time. And yeah, I don't think it's fair. I wasn't attacking Paige. I was laying out very real logistics. But the next morning he was still cold, barely said 2 words to me, and took the kids to school without even asking if I needed anything before he left. I'm 2 weeks from my due date, waddling around like a penguin. And apparently the silent treatment is more important than making sure his very pregnant wife can reach the top shelf for the cereal bowls. Later that afternoon, I tried again to talk about it because I didn't want this devolving into some long-term simmering resentment situation. I told him that if he insists on committing to this sports schedule, then he needs to help me figure out how I'm supposed to function. I asked him if he had a plan for dinners, bedtimes, laundry, bath times, helping with homework, school forms, all the stuff he won't be here for on the weeks we have all 5 kids. And he straight up said, "I'll help when I'm home." That's it. No solution. Just, when I'm home. I pointed out he wouldn't be home until 7 or 8 most nights. And by then all the chores and the hardest parts of the evening are over. He said, "It's only temporary." Yeah, 6 months of newborn chaos and recovery is not temporary in the way he's using the word. Meanwhile, Paige gets to do something every single day, while the other 4 kids basically sit on the sidelines with no activities. How is that fair? I brought up that exact point that the kids should have equal access to activities, and he gave me that look he uses when he thinks I'm being unreasonable, but doesn't want to say it out loud. He said the other kids haven't shown the same level of commitment as Paige. They are 7, 6, and 6. They're not training for the Olympics. They just want to take a dance class or try soccer. Of course they haven't shown commitment. They've never been given the chance. And I'll admit, I did ask him why Paige always seems to get priority. Because it really does feel like whenever she has a preference, the whole household contorts itself around her. The canceled trip over the random birthday party. The day he bailed on a barbecue with my family because she wanted to stay home to recharge. And the Christmas meltdown. Every time she digs in her heels, I'm expected to adjust. He immediately snapped and said, "She's a kid going through a lot. Stop making her the problem." Which is exactly what he always says, that she has big emotions or whatever, and we're supposed to accommodate them. But my kids are also going through a lot. Their home life changed too. They have new siblings, a new stepdad, a new routine, and now a baby on the way. But somehow anything they need is less urgent. Anyway, after that argument, he left the house to clear his head. And while he was gone, his ex texted me directly, even though I blocked her months ago for being intrusive. So she went through email. She wrote this passive-aggressive paragraph about how sad it is that some adults can't put children first, and Paige's development shouldn't be hindered because of your personal choices. Then she ended it with, "This is why blended families struggle when stepparents refuse to accept their role." I didn't respond, obviously, but I showed it to my husband, and he said, "She's not wrong." I'm sorry, but that was the last straw for me. I told him if he wants to spend every spare minute chauffeuring Paige around, that's his choice. But then he needs to admit he is basically opting out of newborn parenting for half the year. He tried to backpedal and say that's not what he meant. But when I asked him what exactly his plan was, he didn't have one. Then he accused me of making this a competition between the kids, which I'm not. But I'm also not pretending that it's fine for one child to consume the entire schedule, while everyone else loses out, including me and the newborn. The thing is, I actually think the local gym league is a good compromise. It's not like I'm telling her she can't play anything. I just don't see why one child's hobby needs 4 to 5 hours of driving daily when we live in a town with sports leagues literally designed for busy families. But when I said that again, both he and his ex acted like I suggested banning Paige from ever touching a ball again. At this point, I'm stressed out, exhausted, and annoyed. All the emotional labor, all the scheduling, all the physical work, it's all on me. But somehow I'm the selfish one. I'm the one being accused of not supporting Paige, as if I don't already do enough around here. I've made school lunches, made her room nice, helped with her homework, and driven her to friend hangouts when it's our week. I'm not a monster. But I also don't think she gets to dictate the entire household's functioning. Yesterday was the final blow. He came home and told me he already emailed the coach saying Paige would be participating this year for the full season. He didn't discuss it with me again, didn't consider my position, nothing. Just did it and said, "We'll make it work." There is no we in this situation. There is me doing everything while he lives in his car half the week. And honestly, the more I think about it, the more irritated I get. I feel like everyone is treating me like the only adult expected to compromise. I'm the one who's supposed to rise above, juggle every plate, and be endlessly flexible so Paige can do whatever schedule she wants. Meanwhile, no one is considering the reality of newborn care, or the fact that my kids also deserve attention and opportunities. I still don't think I'm asking for something unreasonable. I'm not demanding Paige give up sports forever. I'm asking for 1 year to choose the more manageable option. At this point, he's barely speaking to me, and his ex has probably crafted a whole narrative where I'm the evil stepmom who hates her child. And I'm sitting here 2 weeks from pushing out a baby, wondering how exactly I became the bad guy for asking for balance. So, Ada? Comments. Comment 1. I don't even think you realize how clearly this whole post paints you as someone who resents her stepkid. You say you don't hate Paige, but it bleeds through every paragraph. She's not joining the WNBA line. Jesus, that's mockery. She's 12. She's trying to find identity and confidence, and all you see is how her existence inconveniences you. Your framing is wild too, like, your husband isn't opting out of newborn parenting. He's supporting his daughter. You're acting like a baby is a 24/7 solo mission, only you are responsible for. And any time your husband steps away to be a parent to another one of his children, he's betraying you. And the worst part is, you've twisted, "I asked for a compromise" into, "I demanded that your daughter's life get smaller to fit mine. And if you don't agree, I'll paint you as neglectful." You don't want a compromise. You want your way, and you want him to justify it to you. Comment 2. You act like you're making logistical arguments. But this whole post is drenched in resentment, not just towards Paige, but towards your husband too. You say you want balance, but really, you want Paige to disappear from the calendar so your life is easier. Your language says it all. She's the only one who gets to do extracurriculars. This isn't the WNBA. We have 5 kids. She's just one. But she's not just one. She's a kid. She existed before your baby plans. And your husband didn't stop being a father to her the minute you got a positive pregnancy test. You're treating Paige like she's some optional extra, when she's his child just like your newborn will be. The whole idea of bumping her into a lesser league with fewer connections just so things are more convenient for you is not a compromise, it's exclusion. And that 1 year thing, kids don't work on pause. This is the age where identity, friendships, and confidence are shaped. Your priorities don't erase hers. You had a baby knowing what the household already looked like. It's not Paige's job to sacrifice her life because you're overwhelmed. Comment 3. Huge YTA. No, your newborn is not more important than his other kids. That's the problem. You made this decision to add a 6th child to an already packed situation, and now that it's hard, your answer is to tell the one kid who has something she loves, "Sorry, we need you to shrink your life." How do you not hear how messed up that sounds? You want a manageable household? Then plan for that before you get pregnant. Don't wait until you're 2 weeks from delivery, and then act like the 12-year-old is the root issue. She's not. You and your husband didn't plan this well, and now the solution is somehow cutting into her opportunities. And I'm sorry, but suggesting she switch to a local league where she doesn't know anyone, has no school community, and probably less structure is insulting. That's like telling your own daughter, "We got you a knockoff version of your dream. You should be grateful." School sports aren't about just shooting hoops, they're about being part of something bigger at that age. Honestly, you sound like someone who thought forming a blended family would come with respect and equal footing. And now that it's hard, and you don't feel like a central figure to his older kids, you're taking it out on the one who won't cater to you. Update. So the baby was born 8 weeks ago. Labor was long, hard, and honestly traumatic. My husband was there, but not really there. I could tell his mind was elsewhere. He didn't bond with the baby. Still hasn't. I'm the one doing night feedings, diapers, everything. And when I try to talk about how hard it is, how little support I feel from him, he just zones out or gives me that fake nod that says, "Can we be done now?" The second week home, I had mastitis, was running a fever, and still had to cook dinner and wrangle 5 kids solo, while he sat in a parking lot 30 minutes away waiting for Paige's practice to end. I told him I needed him to skip practice that day. He said Paige had a scrimmage, and she needs consistency. I snapped. I didn't throw things or threaten divorce. But something in me just switched off. I stopped trying to keep the peace. If no one else was going to protect my time, energy, and space, then I would. The following week, I packed up and moved into the house I owned before we got married, taking my 2 girls and the baby with me. I told him I needed to reset. He tried to act shocked, like this came completely out of nowhere, but honestly, I think he was relieved. My leaving gave him a convenient excuse to pour all his attention into Paige without dealing with the actual reality of our home. At first, he didn't ask me to come back. He visited the baby here and there, but barely stayed 30 minutes. Always rushing off. I have to get Paige. I have to drop off the other kids. She has a game. I was pissed but not surprised, so I took things into my own hands. One night, while I was up at 3 am cluster feeding, I created a Gmail account and emailed Paige's coach. I claimed to be a concerned parent from the school and said Paige's grades had been slipping, that she might not be eligible to play. I didn't say anything that couldn't be seen as concern. I even said, "I'm sure it's not intentional, but I thought you should know." 2 days later, Paige was pulled for academic review. My husband was livid. He didn't say it directly, but I could tell he suspected me. I didn't admit a thing. His ex called screaming. I ignored her. Not my circus. Paige's status got reinstated. Apparently her grades were fine, but now there was a flag on her file, and they had to notify the parents if anything changed. So now every time she misses an assignment, they get ping. I call that a win. But the mood shifted. Paige stopped talking to me entirely. Wouldn't even look at me. When she came over, she stayed in her room, didn't eat with us, and didn't say goodbye when she left. My husband didn't say much either. Just got quieter and colder. 2 weeks ago, he sat me down and told me Paige was requesting to stay full-time at her mom's. He agreed. He said it wasn't my fault, but he said it in the way people say it is your fault. I didn't argue. I told him I understood. But I didn't feel guilty. If anything, I felt lighter. Less tension in the house. My daughters noticed too. They've been happier. We started doing our own thing. I enrolled them in a local dance studio using money from a savings account my mom gave me. I didn't tell my husband. I didn't think it was his business. But when he came over for one of his visits, my oldest slipped and told him about dance class. He lost it. Not because they were doing something, but because I hadn't included his kids. He said I was creating division. I told him bluntly, his kids have their activities. Mine deserve theirs. Not everything has to be blended. That pissed him off more. Then, and this part I know is going to sound crazy, but I stand by it, I applied for a reality show. I saw a casting call for blended families juggling too much and thought, why not? Free help, visibility, maybe even a trip or resources. I filled out the application, submitted a video, and even had my girls talk in it. I didn't include Paige because, well, she's never here anymore. And I didn't tell my husband because I didn't think he'd support it. Turns out I was right. They contacted us. A producer called to schedule a Zoom interview. I tried to play it cool and told my husband about it like it was no big deal. He was furious. Said I crossed a line, exploited the kids, and turned our mess into entertainment. He accused me of trying to humiliate him publicly and trying to make Paige's mom look bad on national TV. I told him maybe if he'd supported me in the first place, I wouldn't have needed to do it. He didn't respond. Just sent a short email to the show saying we were withdrawing. I only found out when they stopped replying. I tried to undo it, but they said the family needed full consent. So now I'm sitting here, stuck in this apartment, 2 months postpartum, alone most days except for the baby and my girls. He still visits, but barely speaks to me. I asked him point blank if he still wants this marriage. He said, I want to be a good father. That's it. Not, I want to fix this. Not, I miss you. Just, I want to be a good father. I told him if he thinks being a good father means abandoning one child for another, then we're on different planets. He said, no, you're the one who made it impossible for me to be present for all of them. And honestly, maybe that's true. But I don't feel bad about it. I did what I had to do. So yeah, that's where things stand. I don't know if the marriage is salvageable. I don't know if I care. I'm too tired to pretend I'm the problem when no one else seems to lift a finger unless I scream. And I still don't think I was wrong. I never asked him to stop being Paige's dad. I asked for balance, and no one gave it to me. Comments. Comment 1. I read your original post and thought you were just overwhelmed and tunnel vision. But this update. This is sabotage disguised as self-appointed sainthood. Let me break this down as someone who co-parents and actually lives the logistics of a blended family. You didn't want balance. You wanted your husband to stop being a dad to his oldest kid whenever it was inconvenient for you. And when he didn't cave, you escalated by making unilateral decisions, some of which were straight up manipulative. That fake grade email. That's not desperation, that's character. You basically weaponized motherhood. You faked postpartum symptoms, used the newborn as leverage, and then when that didn't get the reaction you wanted, you nuked the relationship between your husband and his daughter. And you're still shocked she requested to live with her mom. Then the reality show thing. OP, that wasn't ambition. That was delusion with a camera crew. Your husband is burnt out because he's the only adult in this story who actually tried to show up for all his kids. Meanwhile, your logic reads like, if I'm drowning, everyone else better drown too. You didn't check out, you detonated. Honestly, you're lucky he's still visiting the baby. Comment 2. This post feels like watching a custody dispute in slow motion, but it's not even in court. It's just lived out through bitterness and power moves. And the baby is now the pawn. You wanted to be the nucleus of your husband's world. I get it. New baby, emotional chaos, exhaustion, but instead of asking for help or building structure, you built a power hierarchy. My kids and my baby need X, therefore, Paige must get Y. That's not balanced. That's chess. The most brutal part. Your husband did try to juggle everything. He was driving for hours, showing up for Paige, trying to be present for the new baby, probably doing mental gymnastics to not upset anyone. But you weren't looking for compromise, you were testing loyalty. That never ends well. And now Paige is out of the house, the marriage is cracking, and you're still convinced you did the rational thing. You're still asking Reddit to justify sabotage. The issue isn't whether Paige plays volleyball, it's that you never accepted she had a permanent seat at your family table. You resented her from the jump and hid it behind fairness. This isn't a sports issue. It's a core value clash. And honestly, you lost. Not because Paige won, but because your husband saw what you were willing to do when you felt left out, and now he doesn't trust you with the family he built before you came along. Update. A few weeks after my last update, things took a turn I didn't expect. I started noticing my husband was distant in a new way. Not just cold or annoyed, but careful. Measured. Like everything he said was pre-written. I chalked it up to stress until one night, he came over to the apartment and left his tablet on the counter when he went to change the baby. I didn't mean to snoop. But the screen lit up, and I saw a message preview from his ex. If we adjust the custody agreement now, we can avoid court later. Let's talk before the weekend. My stomach dropped. I opened it. I'm not proud, but at that point I was already spiraling, and the idea that they were planning something behind my back made me see red. The entire thread was awful. Not about cheating, not romantic, but about me. About how unstable I'd been, how my move out fractured the household, how Paige was scared of being around up, how the younger kids were confused, and how he needed to think about long-term safety. Like I'm a threat. He didn't mention the burner email, but reading between the lines, I'm pretty sure he suspects it was me. And Paige supposedly told him she never wants to be in my house again. According to the messages, he and his ex were considering shifting custody, so he would have the younger two more often, not including the baby, obviously, but his kids with her. Meaning they were actively planning to sideline me from their lives. A few days after I found those messages, things blew up again. He came over and asked if I'd thought about what separation would look like long term. He said it calmly, almost too calmly, and that made it worse. I told him I didn't want a separation. I told him I wanted my family back, maybe not exactly the way it was, but something. I said I knew I'd been a mess, but that motherhood is messy and blending is messy, and it was wrong to leave me drowning alone just because I'm not perfect. He didn't budge. He said he needed clarity and left. After that, I made a stupid decision I regret, but also don't regret because part of me needed validation. I downloaded a dating app. I didn't plan on meeting anyone. I just wanted to see if someone would talk to me, flirt with me, or make me feel wanted. Something I hadn't felt from my husband in months. I put a picture up, not revealing, just me holding a coffee, and wrote a short bio about being a mom, navigating changes. I matched with 3 people within a day. I didn't meet any of them, didn't go out, and barely even messaged. But my husband found out. He asked to borrow my phone to take a picture of the baby to send to his mom, and a notification from one of the apps popped up. He didn't yell. That's what made it worse. He just stared at me like he was looking at a stranger. He handed the phone back and said, Okay, that's where we're at then. I didn't even know how bad things were until I tried coming back to the house. I packed up the apartment, told my girls we were going home, and drove over without announcing it. I thought he'd be relieved. I thought it could be a reset. Instead, I walked into a house where half the furniture was gone. The office was emptied, and the master bedroom closet had only his dress clothes left. He'd moved out. Quietly. Completely. He said he didn't tell me yet because he didn't want conflict in front of the kids. I lost it. I asked him if he was abandoning me. He said he wasn't abandoning me. He was prioritizing peace for the children. And then, as if that wasn't enough, he told me he wanted to talk about formalizing our separation. I asked him if he was serious. He said yes. I asked him if he really thought I was so broken that he needed to uproot everything. He said, "You're not broken. But you're unpredictable. I can't bring the kids back into that." That hit harder than anything. And then today, literally today, I got served with legal papers. He's filing for legal separation and wants to establish custody for the baby. I am shaking as I write this. And yes, I know I've made mistakes. I'm not pretending I'm innocent. I know the email was wrong. I know the dating app thing looked bad. I know moving out in the middle of chaos made everything worse. I know I'm not perfect, and I know I've been emotional and reactive and messy. But it is wrong to leave me like this. It's wrong to leave me raising a newborn and 2 little girls alone while he plays house with his ex and their kids like I'm the problem that needs to be quarantined. It was wrong to throw away a family because I wasn't functioning at my best during the hardest period of my life. Wrong to leave me holding the fallout while he gets to look like the composed, rational parent. I don't know what to do now. I don't know what the next update will look like. All I know is I feel betrayed and abandoned by the person who swore he'd build a family with me. And I still don't understand how it got this far. Comments. Comment 1. You're not the victim, you're just finally being held accountable. I've been through divorce. I've been through new baby chaos. I've been overwhelmed and unsupported, so I get where the emotions are coming from. But holy hell, OP, this isn't accountability. This is a pity parade with smoke grenades. You F it up. Repeatedly. And now you're shocked people don't want to stand near the wreckage. Your husband didn't leave you when things got hard. He stuck around through months of chaos, you sabotaging his daughter's life, emotional manipulation, public stunts, and literal fake identities. And still, he gave you multiple chances. You walked out. You pulled away. You lit the matches. Now you're mad he called the fire department? You keep saying, he left me. No. He adapted to the consequences of your choices. You never wanted to build a blended family. You wanted everyone else to bend to your new plan and be grateful for it. At some point, being a mess stops being an excuse and starts being a warning sign. And he listened to it. Comment 2. From a legal perspective, you've given him every single piece of leverage. He needs to get favorable custody and separation terms. He's documenting everything while you're spiraling, and you handed him the narrative he needs in court. Let's tally it up. You moved out without a custody plan. That's abandonment of the marital residence. You used a burner email to interfere in his daughter's education. That's parental alienation. You created a divide in activities between your kids and his. That's weaponizing access. You joined a dating app while still legally married, which, even if not cheating, looks bad when arguing about who provides a stable home. You blew up when he didn't let you ambush move back into a home he was clearly already moving out of. Now you're mad he's serving you legal papers after all that? Girl, come on. You're right that you're a mess, and that part is understandable. What's not okay is how you've been burning bridges and expecting people to just stand in the smoke with you out of loyalty. You say he's abandoning you. No. He's protecting himself legally, emotionally, logistically. If I were him, I'd do the same. And a judge probably will too. Second story. Sil is friends with my husband's ex now. The ex showed up, kissed my husband, and claimed she is the affair partner, and Sil vouched for their affair. I'm so glad I trusted my husband. I 29F and my husband 31M went to his mother's birthday party this weekend. And to my surprise, my husband's ex was also there. Some backstory. I and my husband have been married for 2 years and together for 3 years. We met about 1 year after he broke up with his ex, and when we talked about our previous relationships and experiences, he told me I was his second relationship ever. He explained he dated his ex, who's also his twin sister's best friend, from senior year of HS until they were 27. They had a messy breakup. He proposed, and she said no because she wanted to see the world and wasn't ready to settle down. Fast forward to this past weekend. We get to my parent-in-law's house, and she is there. I didn't know who she was at first. Well, we start mingling, and at some point, this woman I don't know comes up to us. And she ignores me first and turns to my husband and says, "Are you seriously keeping on ignoring me?" I was confused. My husband looks at me and introduces us like, "S, this is my wife, M, baby, this is S, my ex." Before I could say something, she hugs my husband, and to his credit, he steps back and pulls me to stay in the middle of them. At this point, I have a lot of questions for my husband, but decided to table it until we get home. The festivities keep on going. After my Mill blew the candles, my Phil, husband, and Sil all gave speeches for Mill. When it comes to Sil's speech, she starts with, "My mother must be excited to have her true daughter-in-law back in the fold. Welcome back, S." At this point, everyone is looking between me and S. I'm visibly uncomfortable. My husband asks if I want to leave, to which I say no. I didn't want to cause a scene. I excuse myself to go to the bathroom, and my Mill follows me inside. She apologizes for her daughter's behavior and tells me not to worry about Esty because her son has been happier and she can see we love each other. I thank her and go outside, where I'm met with my Sil screaming kiss kiss, my husband telling her to stop and S grabbing his arm. At this point, I'm starting to see red on my way to them. S grabs my husband and plants a kiss on his lips, and he just stands there. I turn around, grab my things and walk out. I was just extremely frustrated. I had to spend all day with two people who clearly have no respect for me or my relationship. I called an Uber and just went home. About 2 minutes in, on my drive home, my husband texts me asking where I am. He doesn't give me time to reply in calls. I decline and text him I was on my way home. He kept calling until I just turned it off. Got home, and about 15 minutes later, so did my husband. He asked me why I left, and I lost it. I told him about the blatant disrespect from his ex and sister, his ex constantly flirting with him, and the cherry on top, his ex kissing him. He apologized, and I just asked him, "Do you still have feelings for her?" To which he vowed he didn't, and he was just caught by surprise and didn't act fast enough, and he should have been more direct in stopping his sister and ex. I told him I had a headache and was going to bed. He asked if I was mad. I told him yes. I'm mad at this situation and disappointed in how he handled things. The party was Saturday. Sunday, I start getting bombarded with texts from his sister telling me I'm a drama queen, that I had no right to ruin her mother's birthday party, and that my attitude is why my husband will leave me and go back to S. I gave the phone to my husband and told him either he handles his sister or I will. So Ada for just leaving. Comments. Comment 1. NTA. But sounds like your husband was put in a really sticky situation and tried to handle it well. He ignored her at first. He introduced you as babe. He pulled away from the hug. He offered to leave with you. He tried to shut down his sister with a kiss thing. But his ex kissed him non-consensually. You definitely have a right to be upset with Sil and S, and maybe with Mill for not telling Sil to stop. But it sounds like your husband was on your team, at least from what I can tell. Comment 2. NTA, and your Sil set this up, so the anger should go there and to the ex. But your husband did block the ex with you physically and asked if he wanted to leave. Honestly, in that situation I would have left and not run the risk of whatever else was being planned to cause problems. Comment 3. I don't think you're a complete but this is not about you, and you need to be supportive of your husband. Your husband was sexually harassed, and a kiss he didn't consent to is a form of assault. All that happened to you was some disrespect and rudeness, but your husband's personal space and consent were violated. He needs your support. It sounds like your Mill did not agree with what was happening, so there was no need for you to walk out without your husband. You should have left together. He didn't kiss his ex willingly. She assaulted him. There are enough people in the world who don't take assault and harassment against men seriously. Don't be another one. Block your Sil. You don't need to hear from her yourself. But your insecurity is not helping your husband process what happened to him on a night that was supposed to be fun and celebrating his mother. Comment 4. NTA. Since your Mill followed you and apologized for her daughter and S, maybe she can help you and your husband to put this to bed. Maybe text her and ask if you're leaving her birthday party early ruin the party. If she says no, then tell her your Sil thinks so. Hopefully your Mill tells her and S off for disrespecting your marriage. I think, for now, limit your contact with your Sil until she can learn to be respectful. Comment 5. Your husband was assaulted. You have the right to be upset. But who has the right to be more upset? Him. Because he was assaulted, and instead of protecting or comforting him, his wife stranded him there with his assaulter. You owe him a massive apology, and then you both need to work together to decide how to handle his family going forward. And actually support your spouse, FFS. He's probably really hurt by all of you right now. YTA. Update. Hi everyone. Well, I asked my husband if we could talk before we had dinner. He said, of course. I started by apologizing for not having his back. As most of you point out, He was sexually harassed by his ex. No buts. I just told him I was extremely sorry. I was only seeing it from my point of view. Because, honestly, even though he never gave me reasons, I felt insecure and thought that maybe he still had feelings for his ex, which consumed me. His sister was never this openly hostile to me. So in my head, I made up a bunch of scenarios that maybe she was like that because she knew something I didn't. But that was on me, not him, only on me. I told him I left because, honestly, I was pissed. But mainly I was scared. Scared of losing him and what we have. But I see my actions could be the reason I lose him, not anyone else or their actions. He told me that at the time the kiss happened, he froze because he honestly didn't believe she would go that far. He explained after I left he went off on both his sister and ex, and his mum told everyone it was time to leave. I once again apologized, and he told me that it did hurt that I just left him there. It wasn't so much for the kiss itself, but the fact that I would doubt him so easily. He said, since on Sunday we were dancing around each other, not really talking, he called his mum just for advice, and his mum told him that while she understood his side, she also understood mine. That we are both adults and should just sit down and address our concerns with each other. She also texted me saying, marriage is not for the faint of heart. It's not all roses and sunshine. The best you can do is communicate and trust in each other. I called my mill and apologized for leaving like I did, and said in no way did I want to ruin her party. She told me I didn't, but that I need to trust my husband if I want this marriage to work. I told her about the messages my sil is sending, and she said she talked with her, and my sil told my mill that my husband has been texting S, saying he is unhappy with me, and was only with me until S was ready for something more. My mill told her that that doesn't make any sense, because if he was waiting for S, he could have dated me, but he wouldn't have married me. And if she thought otherwise, she doesn't know her own brother. Well, I've blocked her. My husband called her and told her he doesn't want to see or hear from her for the time being and blocked her as well. We told his parents, and they told us not to worry about her, that she will come to her senses soon, and if she doesn't, that's on her. Update. Adding it here, because apparently I can't update more than once. Thank you everyone for your words of encouragement. Here I thought blocking my sil was going to give me some peace. Well, I thought wrong. She came up to my house today with S demanding I hear them out. I opened the door, and she tried to push past me to get in, and I just told her they could say whatever they wanted from where they were standing. Well, S started with a sappy story that she didn't want to hurt me. But as a woman herself, she couldn't live with the guilt of sleeping with my husband and sneaking behind my back. I was speechless, but I learnt my lesson and didn't for a second doubt my husband. As my mama always said, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me, so I was like, you know what? Get in. My husband wasn't home. He went to the gym with a friend. I called him and told him his sister was at our house with S, and that I invited them in, and we were waiting for him. S tried to show me the proof. I just told her she could show me in a bit when my husband got home. She tried to tell me he would deny it, and I should just listen to her. I told her, I made that mistake last week and let you two harass my husband. And what better way to put everything on the table than having all parties involved talk and share everything together? Well, my husband gets home. His gym is close, so it took him about 5 minutes to get home. Let me tell you, S came up with a effing sob story, telling my husband it was better to come clean. And Sil was just saying she would always back S and my husband. She showed me the texts, and my husband had had enough and asked to text the number and gave me his phone. She was like, that's not necessary. I was like, better yet, call the number on the message thread. She got up and took Sil with her. My husband is currently on the phone with his mum, telling her what happened while I typed this update here. Well, I think they figure out they can't get their way. If anything else happens, I'll update you guys. Comments. Comment 1. Where is the information getting scrambled? I think the ex caught a jealous bug once you got married and lied to the sister-in-law to use her as a lever to cause chaos. The goal being to cause a fight, break up the marriage, or get back together. Ex was proposed to. They thought some other plan would happen, but now it has been years, and no one wants to be with them long term. Meanwhile, the one who proposed is married to someone else. It's competitive relationship syndrome. In her mind she could say no, and he would be single forever, or at least her second option if she didn't find something better. Mill is trying to be reasonable in the middle of a circus. Comment 2. I agree. OP's husband was her backup plan, and now she's jealous and wants what she can't have. Sil can eat rocks, regardless of what she had been told about texts, which was obviously a lie. Her behavior was not how she should have supported her BFF or her brother. Not to mention that there is a time and place for everything, and her mother's birthday party was not it. Mill handled it with grace, and I'm glad OP and DH spoke like calm, rational adults and worked things out. Comment 3. scared of losing him and what we have. But I see my actions could be the reason I lose him, not anyone else or their actions. This is an insight most, if not all, people miss. Their own actions bringing around the outcome they most fear. Comment 4. It is honestly refreshing to see Emil step in with actual sense and support. She is backing the right people here. That sister is something else entirely. What she did was vile and shows a real pattern of manipulation and control. People do not suddenly wake up one day and decide to behave that horribly in public. That kind of behavior grows over years, and it usually comes with a long history of jealousy, boundary stomping, and emotional chaos. You do not need someone like that anywhere near your life as a couple. I am also really glad you have recognized that your husband was assaulted. Anyone can freeze. I have frozen in situations like that when I was younger, and it is terrifying. Your empathy matters here, and it shows you care about his experience. At the same time, my heart goes out to you. Fear of losing someone you love can twist your thinking, and you owned your part in that. That is not easy to do. It sounds like you and your husband actually handled the hard conversation with honesty, and you both listened. That is real work. Your mother-in-law was correct that marriage is not for the faint of heart. I celebrate my 27th anniversary next month, and wow, the mountains and battles we have had to climb and fight together. But I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. You are both doing a lot right. I know the go-to on Reddit is to say therapy, and if things feel stable and supportive, then you do not need therapy just to get a gold star. You might still want to consider it, though. A couples therapist can help you both guard your relationship against outside toxicity. An individual therapist can help your husband process the assault and the long history of his sister's behavior. People who behave like she did do not usually confine their issues to one moment, and a therapist can help him understand that pattern without blaming himself. I've had both individual and couples therapy off and on through my almost 3 decades of marriage, and it's been vital to maintaining a happy and healthy home and relationship. I truly hope everything keeps moving in the right direction for both of you. Please keep us updated. Thank you for watching the video. If you are interested in listening to these kinds of stories, we've got more in store for you. Simply subscribe to our channel, hit the like button, and share it with your friends.